Hi traders, hope you're doing well. Welcome to my video on the pivot points EA, which I have developed for the MT4 trading platform. This is a free EA which you can download using the link in the description. In this video, I'm just going to walk through the various settings in the EA and the different ways in which you can implement it within your trading strategy. Okay, so here you can see the MT4 trading platform. This is a rough backtest I've just run with the pivot points EA. And you can see in the chart window here the pivot points and the various entries that the EA had taken. These are the current pivot points here. If we just scroll back, these were the pivot points entries based on the pivot points previously. Okay, so there are many ways you can customize this EA. If I just go to the settings window here. So this is the strategy tester window in MT4 where you can run your back tests. Perhaps you're familiar with it already. If not, I'll just quickly run through the things you can select. So you've got here the expert advisor section, which is where you can choose the EA expert advisor that you wish to test. In this instance, we've selected the pivot points EA. So the symbol, this is the trading instrument that you want to test on. So we've got the euro dollar selected here. You can use this EA on any trading instrument that you wish, Forex, stocks, cryptos, commodities, etc. For the testing model, so we can start with open prices only because the EA does calculate the entry and exit using open prices. Okay, so it wants a confirmed bar. However, the thing about this is it doesn't account for, say, there's a stop loss or take profit or break even in trailing stop within a bar, so intra-bar, in which instance you'd want to switch over to every tick testing. Okay, however, to get a rough idea of some settings, we can use the open prices only to start just because it's a lot quicker. And then when we want to fine tune those settings, we can switch over to every tick to confirm if they are actually valid settings or not. Of course, there's still limitations even with every tick, just because MT4 by nature cannot account for anything that's less than the 1 minute bar. So, true tick data, the modeling quality is maxed out at 90%. But you can use third-party software to implement within the MT4 trading platform to improve the test results. Nonetheless, it can still give you a good idea of what to expect from a particular trading strategy. Of course, nothing is guaranteed moving forward. So other things to look for are the dates. So I've just selected this year here. Okay, you can go back as far as you like. Just bear in mind that the more data you test over, the better the results are likely to be, just because you test it through various market conditions. However, you can also run the risk of over-optimization, which is basically curve fitting or finding settings to work for that particular data set. Okay, but I'll get into that later. Visual mode, this is if you want to see the EA actually in action in the back test on the charts, but we can leave that unchecked. That's just good to confirm entries and how it works. So our period, so this is the time frame we want to test. We're going to start with a 1 hour time frame. I prefer the 1 hour charts and above simply because I find they have less noise and signals therefore tend to be more reliable. It also means less time chart watching. Okay, spread, so we can use the current market spread, which will just take the spread from the instrument, euro dollar in this instance, from your broker, or you can manually select a spread. Just go careful if you're testing on the weekend, spreads tend to be higher than usual. So you might want to adjust to something more realistic in there, and also keep in mind that if you set the spread too low compared to real market conditions, then you might get unrealistic results as well. So if you click expert properties here, just hit reset on those. So these are the various settings within the EA that you can customize. So this is the name. You can change that to anything that you like. This is what will appear in the comments in your trading history. So the EA can send you pop-up alerts, email alerts, and SM alerts when there is a signal. This is useful if you want a signal and then want to manually check and perhaps place a trade yourself. So you can use the EA in a semi-automated fashion. Otherwise, you can set use trading to true, in which instance the EA will place the trades and manage them for you, depending on the settings that you choose here. You can also have both sets true, so you can let the EA place the trades and also get a pop-up alert from your platform, an email alert or an SMS alert, which is handy if, say, you're not at your screen, you're out and about, you're on the sofa, whatever you're doing, you can still have an alert. Okay, a trade's been placed, and then you can decide if you want to manage the trade yourself, perhaps adjust the stop loss, the take profit, confirm the entry. Okay, but for the purpose of backtesting, we can just set all the alerts to false and use trading to true. So days filter is self-explanatory. This is the days of the week. The EA can trade and send signals. The hours filter, so this is hours of the day. Magic number, also known as the order ID, so you can set the order ID for the buy and sell trades. This is handy if you're perhaps using other trading strategies or EAs on the same account. You don't want them to clash. So we've got maximum spread, maximum slippage. If the spread or slippage is greater than these values in pips, the EA will not place a trade. So with the money management, the open order is limited to 1 by default. This is one open buy and or sell trade at any time. You can choose to use fixed lots, okay, or fixed risk percent. If you have a user risk set to false, the EA will use the lots you put in here in the lots field. If you have user risk set to true, then you can just set the risk percent that you'd like to use per trade, and the EA will calculate that for you. Okay, stop loss and take profit, self-explanatory, and close on opposite signal. If there's a signal in the opposite direction, the EA can close a trade. So if you have a buy trade open and there's a sell signal, and you have this set to true, the buy trade will be closed and the sell signal will be taken. Okay. So the break even, trailing stop, self-explanatory. Break even point is when the break even starts in pips. Trailing gap is the distance to trail the price at buy. And the close percent, perhaps you want to close a percentage of the trade when the break even point is reached. So if you set this to say 25, the EA will close 25% of the position once the break even point is reached, and then continue to close 25 every time the trailing gap is reached as well. Okay, the minimum lot to close is the EA will stop closing part of the position once there's this amount of lots remaining. So for example, let's just say your lots, you have one standard lot, a 50 pip break even, 25 pip trailing stop, and you close 25% until there's 0.1 lots left. If you're lucky enough for your trade to travel that much in your favor, and the EA will keep closing 25% until there's 0.1 lots remaining, and it will just leave the rest of the position open. Okay, for either the stop loss or the take profit to be reached. Okay, if you are using the break even and trail, you can always just set take profit to 0 and just let the break even and trailing stop close out the position if you want. You may even have close on opposite signal set to true as well, and whilst using a break even and trailing stop, it just really depends on your money management, your trading preferences, the strategy that you want to use. Okay, so this is the nitty gritty now, which is the entry for the EA. So we have pivot points here. So you obviously want use pivot point set to true. Okay, display levels. So this will display the pivot levels on the chart for you, and in the back test as well. So you can set that to true or false. Entry type is the type of entry you want to take on the pivot point. So reversal will be once price touches the pivot point, we will take a trade in the opposite direction. Okay, and a breakout would be once price crosses the pivot point, we will take an entry in the direction of cross. Okay, so you can trade breakout or reversal trades of pivot points using this EA. Pivot point time frame, self-explanatory. You can use the current time frame, or you can choose between any of the timeframes here, which are all the timeframes within the MT4 platform. And for the pivot points mode, you've got the classic, Camarilla, Woody, Fibonacci, floor, or Fibonacci retracement. So there's various different pivot point modes you can choose from depending on your trading preferences. So that's the settings. See, fully customizable, you can change it according to your own trading style. Now what I'm going to run through is an optimization. So an optimization is basically doing a combination of settings to try and achieve some good results in a backtest. This is just a rough optimization that I did previously. So to do an optimization, you go to the properties and you're basically going to check the box of each setting you wish to test a combination of. So for example, if we choose hour start from 0, start from 0 here, step 2 and stop at 24. So this will test the hours 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Same for the hour end. So just basically do every combination possible from the values that we've selected. Okay, let's set so we can do a stop loss. Let's do a stop loss from 50 to 100 because we're on the 1 hour chart. We really don't want to go higher than that. Take profit. Let's start at 50 and go up to 300. Okay, for the close and opposite signal, if we check that, we can test whether having close and opposite true or false is beneficial. For the break even, we can have that true or false if we like. And let's say start at break even from 50 pips, go up in 50 increments and stop at 100. So that would only test 50 and 100. Trailing stop, true or false. Let's do a trailing gap of, let's say 25 and up to 50. Close percent, we can close say 0%, 25%, all the way up to 75%. And for the minimum lot to close, we can perhaps, let's say 0.2 and up to 1, in which instance, because we're trading one standard lot, none of the position would be closed. So display levels, we don't need to optimize that, but the entry type we will. We'll try a breakout or reversal. The time frame, we'll optimize all. Current through to 1 month. And for the pivot point mode, we will also do all different modes to see which performs best. Okay. So that's all the things we're going to optimize. The more settings that you choose to optimize, the longer the optimization will take, and it can take a long time depending on the power of the machine that you're using. You could always use a VPS just to leave an optimization running as well for you. Under the optimization tab here, you can select anything that you want to filter results by. So perhaps you want something, you only want results with a maximal drawdown of 20, you can just leave that selected and it will only give you results that meet your requirements, and you can adjust the values in these fields here. I tend to leave these unchecked because I like to see what the different settings produce. Good, both good and bad. Okay, and under testing, the initial deposit you're going to test with. If you want it to trade long and short, or long only or short only, you can choose that there. Okay. And yeah, if you want to optimize by any specific parameter, perhaps balance matters most, or profit factor, perhaps drawdown, I always just leave it on balance. And genetic algorithm, okay, so if you leave this unchecked, the strategy test will do every possible combination that you've selected, which can take forever, especially if you've chosen quite a few settings like we have here. However, if you tick genetic algorithm, the strategy test will throw away results that it believes will produce unfavorable results, and therefore things are a lot quicker. Click OK, hit the optimization box. Remember, we're testing the 1 hour charts for this year, so around 9 months there, and you just click start. Well, I'm going to stop that because we're on every tick mode and that will take a long time. So we're going to go back to open prices only, then click start again. And what will happen now is the strategy tester will go through all the various combinations of settings that we've done. As I said, we did choose quite a lot. Pivot point calculations do take some time and can take longer compared to some other indicators. Like if you're using the moving average EA, things will generally be a lot faster. And under the optimization results tab here, this is where you will see the results of the various combinations. So different start and end hours, stop losses, closing on opposite, using a break-even trailing gap or not, type of entry, type of pivot points, breakout, reversal, pivot points mode, and then all the results will come through here. Okay, so this is basically based on the euro dollar 1 hour data of this year, what those various settings may have produced. As I said, strategy test is not 100% accurate, cannot account for things such as slippage, doesn't include commissions by default, broker servers and things like that can impact performance, real spreads, of course. That give us a rough idea. So we can sort by profit, and we'll scroll up to the top. We can see we're already getting some nice results here. And we've still got a long way to go yet. I'm not gonna do the whole thing because I think you get the gist. So we'll just stop it there. Go to the results and we'll sort by what's the most profitable. So these settings, and then what you can do is you double click those settings, and then the strategy tester will load those particular settings into the EA inputs, and you can save them by clicking save. Perhaps you want to name that pivot points euro dollar 1 hour optimization, and you can just load them at a later date, whether that's on your charts or for back testing. Again, click OK. And as we double click those settings and they've been loaded in the EA, optimizations unchecked. Now we can click start to run an individual back test using those particular settings. And you can see there's your graph. So those pivot point EA settings that we've optimized for. Not bad at all. Good amount of profit, nice equity graph upwards. However, before we get carried away, there's one thing we need to bear in mind. We've only optimized for this year's data, so we could have potentially over-optimized, which, as I said at the start of the video, is also known as curve fitting. So just basically throwing a load of random settings together to see what works for the data set we're using. Whereas if we go back another year and run the exact same settings, what happens? Things don't look as good, okay? Because we can probably pinpoint where we optimize from, around here somewhere. Okay, a bit further on. More or less as soon as the graph started going up. It did go up a bit earlier, but around here, things looked a lot better. And that's because that's the portion that we optimized for. Okay, we didn't optimize for this. So what ends up happening is you can find that a lot of developers will just optimize for a particular data set, make it look like the EA is amazing when in reality it's just been over optimized. Okay, don't get me wrong, sometimes it will be logical and there will actually be a good, you can get a good set file without being pure coincidence. If there's logic behind it, breakouts of certain pivot points with sensible money management. But generally, the more data you test over, the better you can, the more reliable perhaps results will be. But of course, it's all based on historical data and no reflection of what will happen moving forward. So what some people may argue is, well, just optimize further back. Okay, so we click optimization again. This time we'll go back another year and we'll try and find good settings for the last 2 years. Okay, as I said, you can get this EA completely free, Pivot Points EA, using the link in the description. Whether you want to use it semi-automated to send you signals or to trade automatically for you, choice is up to yours, fully customizable. So we can see already some good settings coming through. If you notice here, I've got also bad results coming through. That's simply because you right click, you've got this skip useless results here. If you check that, you won't get any minus results coming through. The only thing is I leave that, usually not all the time, but sometimes I leave it just because I want to see what doesn't work. If I see a certain setting keeps giving me minus, I know perhaps maybe that setting's not the best one to have. You can sort the results depending what matters to you, whether that's profit, trades, profit factor, drawdown, etc. So I usually sort by profit and of course go to the top. Okay, got some decent-ish results coming through. Just let it run a little bit longer. Okay, as I said, you can test any period. This is a 1 hour chart. Testing's a lot faster the higher the time frame. If you do this on a 5-minute chart, it's going to take a lot longer than if you were doing it on, say, a daily chart. Okay, just give you a rough idea of how a particular EA may perform. So let's just stop it there. Okay, that one came through last minute. Let's double click that. It looks decent. Click start. Okay, that looks nice. However, have we over optimized? So if you remember what I said, this looks good if you want to go by the last 2 years, but if we add on another 2 years, what do you think will happen? Let's see. Exactly the same as what happened before. We can pinpoint exactly when we did our optimization, probably around here somewhere, not far off. Because around here we started optimization, where's a nice upwards graph, and of course we didn't optimize for this part, so it just proves that over optimization is a real thing. Which is why I think, gaining manual control over your trading perhaps in a semi-automated manner is more beneficial, because you can mark levels on your chart yourself that perhaps the EA can't see. If let's just say you took the breakout here of a pivot point, you maybe want to manually move your stop loss above here, wait for the price to drop it down, move it above here, and just trade it manually. Perhaps you would have exited when you seen price reach this support level here. Okay, and you start to see these higher lows. The EA may not be accounting for these things which the human eye can. Okay, let's go careful with over optimization. And again, you can keep going back and back and back. You can go back 10 years and over optimize, and you'll find if you go back 15 years that you may see a similar thing such as this. But anyway, this is a really helpful free EA if you're interested in trading pivot points, whether that's a breakout or a reversal. Very popular indicators. As I said, help yourself to a copy. Thank you for watching and happy trading.